Welcome back to the channel. This is S25 Ultra running the latest One UI 8.5, the latest beta. And this is my Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra and it's running the pre-release One UI 9.0. And in this video I'm gonna do a comparison. By the way, have in mind the One UI 8.5 is still beta for the S25 Ultra, and the One UI 9.0 running Android 17 is pre-release. Okay, so there probably gonna be a lot of changes when this thing drops anyway, but let's compare what we have. We're gonna start from the lock screen because there are some changes I want to address. You might see that the clock here on the S26 Ultra is a bit different with the One UI 9.0. This is running Android 17, and what I have on the S25 Ultra, the One UI 8.5 is running Android 16, and I'm gonna show you. When I click here, we can see that I'm using the very same clock face, but the design has been changed, and you can see this because the boldest option on the S25 Ultra is like this, and when I do the same with One UI 9, I just get something that looks completely different, or let's say more pronounced. Then we do have the same styles, but again, they look a bit weird. And if you go to styles, you might see, okay, there is also something that is quite a bit different. So I'm gonna remove the weather information. I'm gonna keep it clean. I'm gonna show the weather information. And if I show it like this is gonna look like that, the date above the clock. But without that option, we have something that is a bit more similar. Now again, there are not like drastic changes here. Some of them are really very same, I would say. But nevertheless, I'm using this one here. And if I choose this style, then apparently that looks a bit different. But then again, the style that I'm using on the S26 Ultra just looks a tiny bit different compared to what I have on the One UI 8.5. Yeah, but still, you know, we can do the obvious things, move these things around. Everything else here pretty much the same, and I'm also using the same wallpapers. All right, I'm gonna click done here. All right, as I'm applying the changes, and as you can see, there are some differences in the way the Now Brief widget is displayed here. Again, this is S26 Ultra, right? Right now the design is more or less the same, and I have a feeling that the whole widget bar from Now Brief is a tiny bit different compared to what I have here. Now I can go on the lock screen, all right, like this. This is transparent or translucent on the One UI 8.5. When I click it like this, all right, I'm gonna go inside the Now Brief. Let's do the same here. I'm gonna click the Now Brief, and apparently I can open this. It's just a setting else. All right, I'm gonna start the Now Brief. This is gonna be pretty much the same experience, but as you can see, there are some differences in the way things are displayed, and also there are other things. Let me show you. Now, when I click here, this, all right, this is the Now Brief widget, and I'm gonna do the same here. When I go inside the settings, you can see there is an opacity setting. This is the basic one, so I'm gonna go to dynamic, and I wanna go just straight to the left. And you can see right now, I'm using background, okay, which is having a background. And then I'm using dynamic color, and I'm gonna remove the opacity, and still I think there is a tiny differences in the way they are displayed. Is this the case? Yeah. Okay, so again, it's a subtle thing, but apparently this has different coloration. Now in terms of widget animation, okay, this is what we have, and this is what we can do when we scroll down. All right, one more time. I think it's pretty obvious. It's kind of the same. And then I'm gonna open the weather, all right, exiting the weather, open the weather. Pay attention to what happens. I believe like the same, almost the same animations. I probably need to slow down to be able to find some differences. And honestly, I think they're like one-to-one. And probably like two main very big differences. I'm gonna directly show you the first one. This is One UI 8.5, and this is the revamped quick panel on the One UI 8.5. You know how it goes. You can click the edit button and you can move things around. And honestly, people love it. I love it as well. And yeah, in One UI 9, okay, things are going even more into the direction of having bigger bars. Not only bigger bars, but also disconnected controls for the volume, right? You can see right now I can click here, and this is going to loop through my modes like vibration or vibration. The pretty same behavior is here as well, but the whole button is kind of disconnected. But forget about the button. I think the biggest change really is the size of these bars. They are enormous, all right? They're really enormous. By the way, everything else is the same, all right? Like night mode, okay? But, okay, you can see right now when I go inside, I have a feeling that also there's some changes inside the night mode. because right now this is the night mode on the One UI 9.0, and this is the quick panel, and this is right now the light mode and the dark mode on the One UI 8.5, and there is kind of a theming on the quick panel. Most probably the same is going to arrive here. But then again, the bigger change here is these enormous big bars. They're really huge. I mean, they're absolutely huge. And you can still do the same things, you know, by the way. You can just take them and you can just delete them if you want to do so, all right? Or you can just make them very, very big. Now, it's interesting that when you get inside the edit mode, they're going to look pretty much the same, all right? You see here? But the moment you press down, I mean, the size stays the same on One UI 8.5, and the moment I press down, we have these big bars here. You can always go and click on the panel setting and just click the Reset Quick Panel, which is going to give you, you know, the stock basic settings. Didn't really work. Again, that's a pre-release software. I'm going to try one more time. Reset, and then boom, play like this. Do we have it? So besides the very big bars, the other only option that is here is the fact that you can now fully resize the menu or the quick button for the sound and also for the dark mode. You just need to hold it, like, see, this is sound, and I can get like dark mode like this, or I can have like sound like this, and that's also an option for you, right? Like, again, big bars and separated controls for dark mode and sound. Okay, so this is like one of the bigger changes. Now, I told you in the beginning there are like two big changes, and I'm going to show you what I mean, because the second big change is also one of my favorites so far, and for that I need to go inside of the media player. I'm going to play some music for you and you let me know what you think the change is. So now this is the media player that I have on my S25 Ultra, and remember, this thing is running the One UI 8.5. Now pay attention, all right? This is it. We can see, I have a feeling that the corners are rounded, but I don't think this is the case. Just it looks a bit smaller than the widget here. But what is even more interesting is a whole new wave line here. Like, the animations are pretty dope. And another observation. Now I'm gonna lock the phone. Okay, I'm just gonna double click to lock it. So this is it right now on the always on. Okay, again, we can see we have different coloration here on the now brief. See what happens when I go inside the lock screen. I'm going to have a very cute animation. Okay, now something that doesn't really work, and some of you were able to see this in the previous video that I did, the One UI 9 impressions. So what happens here when I go to a next song, right? I can scroll to the next song and the next song, and every time I do this on the One UI 8.5, the whole background here of the widget is gonna get themed, okay? Which is something that does not happen on the One UI 9.0. But what I like on the One UI 9.0 is the fact that we get here this obviously very cool animation. And I'm just showing you like always on and then lock screen. So again, new cool animation, but we don't have this theming. And I honestly believe that this is kind of like the better for me, because now the whole thing here, the whole screen looks like a media player. And this is not the case so much on the S25 Ultra. You see, we have still some good animation, but every time we do this, right? Okay, I'm gonna share like theming is applied. But we don't have these fancy colors, and also here the whole scroll point changes the color, which is pretty good. So I believe that this is kind of like a design choice for Android 17 and also for One UI 9.0. Honestly, again, this thing looks better for me, because without this part here, the whole element just looks like a player, and this is not the case with One UI 8.5. Some of you might not be so happy with this change, and I totally get it, because again, we have this theming in One UI 8.5 that doesn't appear here in One UI 9.0, but honestly, you get like the whole new section here with the wave line or the wave animation. This is kind of cool, and yeah, it's Android 17. So all right, without this, let me just go inside my phone, and I want to go inside the settings and see some of the small changes, because I think that there are some very minor changes but still worth mentioning. When I go inside the display, right, One UI 8.5, the preview here of my light and dark is just this and that, but here on the One UI 9.0 with Android 17, you get like the full icon. And we've seen a lot of changes like this under the hood also on my Pixel 10 Pro with Android 17. They revamped a lot of like the stock animations and the stock UI. Probably the same is going to happen to some extent in One UI, but everything else so far looks to be absolutely the same. Now, of course, minus the privacy display, which my S25 Ultra does not have. Everything else here, guys, absolutely the same until we reach this section here. We can see that we do have also a difference in the fonts here. Like this whole menu has been made smaller, but we have the same settings like side button, language, vision enhancements, and also always on. Let's try to click on the always on and see what we have here. Again, it is absolutely the very same menu. Absolutely everything here is the same, and even this now is absolutely aligned to what we see in One UI 8.5. Okay, let's try to see some more of these things. Perhaps there's some more changes. I'm gonna go inside security and privacy, because there we have these animations, and what we can see, this is absolutely one and the same. All right, the same permissions, the same screen and everything else, but okay, we have a bit more like AI agent activity, okay, and we don't have to get this here on the One UI 8.5, but on the One UI 8.5 we have some descriptions for controls and alerts. So I think they're still refining it and then doing these small changes. Also on the very main settings menu, this is what I have here. All right, so I get some tips, but I can see settings here and settings here, and if I just scroll to the very upper part, now again it looks a bit more. Now I can get more on One UI 9, just probably notifications and a tiny bit more from the display, but then we have display and battery. Everything else absolutely grouped into the very same way. Now let's see what happens inside device care. Okay, same animation, right? No changes here. Absolutely one and the same. Okay, but scrolling down I can see that a lot of the description here is missing. For example, on the One UI 8.5, on additional care, I can have like this information on the menu, like, okay, what is diagnostics, what is maintenance mode. Here, this thing is really missing. Also, no animation like this, or let's say no visuals in the maintenance mode. But then again, the One UI 9.0 here is a pre-release software, and I'm sure that this thing will come at a later stage. All right, let's check the storage. I'm gonna click One UI 8.5. One UI 9.0, and it looks a bit different. Now we have this nice shades on the menu in One UI 8.5, and it looks a bit different on the One UI 9.0. We have like large files, duplicate files, and here, you know, we can see videos and images. So I think this whole menu probably going to be redesigned, which also makes me go inside the file manager, because if that's the case, all right, yeah, if that's the case, I thought like they also redesigned the whole my files. The internal storage, like the bar is thinner here for some reason, right? Here we have like recent files and images and audio and video. And again, it seems that some of the menus in One UI 9.0, like you just get more of the screen. Okay, so we have this portion versus this, which I think is pretty good. But then we still have like the same menus: manage storage, manage storage. All right, we have the search button, search button. Now let's see what happens when I click on the search. Okay, also you can see right now here we have like the old boring search, but here we have like this new team search button, and also now you get some nice suggestions. All right, let's go back on the home screen and let's just go to the right. All right, this is my Google now. It's absolutely one and the same. Okay, now let's see what happens when I go and check my icons. Okay, search bar appear. Is it the same though? Okay, here in One UI 8.5 on the S25 Ultra, we do have the old search. Here we have like the new search. If I click inside, okay, now it's going to be displayed, but I get some suggested topics, recent searches, which kind of makes sense. All right, I think it's kind of the same, but then again, we have the new theming here in One UI 9.0. And now, while we're here, let's just try to open some more widgets. I'm going to open again the weather. All right, okay, weather, beautifully rendered and displayed on both phones. And I'm going to open Spotify. What? Okay, one more time, Spotify. I think it's quite similar, guys. So now I'm just going to close everything. I'm gonna go back to my main screen and I just want to open some applications. So let's start with Galaxy Store. And I'm gonna open also Play Store. I think that in this pre-release version of One UI 9.0, we can expect some big changes. So to me, it looks absolutely the same. Is it though? Let me know down below in the comments. I'm gonna try to slow down some of this so that we're able to compare. But honestly, you know, with the background zooming in and zooming out, I think it's quite the same. And no, I'm not using One UI Home App on the S25 Ultra to have like the absolute stock experience. All right, let's see here. One more time, pretty same. Now let's go inside the settings. We still have the very same settings. And then again, some of this seems to use either like a different font. or perhaps just this description information is missing, which I think contributes to having like a cleaner design, and I honestly dig it. But then again, the new changes besides the media player is having these enormous big bars. They, by the way, are contextual. You can do the same things, right? Just click it and you have settings to your brightness, or click the audio, all right, and then you have this. So they're just doing the same thing. One last thing we need to check: what happens with the dark menu? Okay, so what happens with the dark menu? That's interesting. Let's go inside the settings. All right, we do have absolutely the very same dark menu here. Okay, we have dark mode settings here, and this thing is called dark mode schedule. Okay, so this is a bit different. All right, turn on a schedule. So okay, dark mode settings, dark mode schedule. So you see, they're just doing these, I would say, very incremental tweaks. Hopefully this is going to give us some nice things in the future. This is the screen resolution. You can see absolutely the same camera cutout. Okay, and we do have the very same settings. I'm gonna go to light. Let's just see what we have here. Motion smoothness, still the same. Then we have the eye comfort shield. We do have the same here also with the enhanced comfort. Honestly, I think it's pretty similar, and I'm gonna turn this on. By the way, again, we have a lot of these descriptive menus just removed from One UI 9.0, either because it's very early pre-release, or maybe they just want to update it later on. Honestly, again, very similar. The biggest changes here, only like this new media player, which I kind of like, to be honest with you. And then of course also these new redesigned big bars. Now I know this sounds like a very small change, but hey, bear a moment guys, this is pre-release software. The moment Samsung are going to implement more things from Android 17, hopefully we're gonna get some more new changes. Right now Android 17 I think already had like 4 betas, and we have also the first Android 17 QPR 1 beta 1. I did test it on my Pixel 10 Pro, and there's some nice things, and overall like there's gonna be some nice improvements in Android 17 versus what we had in Android 16. Also some new things that we probably don't like in regards of how we can use developer mode and like USB debugging and like sideloading APKs, but you know that Google is trying to tighten up this whole security, and sadly they backed off a bit and are still going to allow us, the users, to be able to sideload things. Let me know what you think down below in the comments guys, and don't forget to check some of my other videos. Stay safe, GST over and bye!